I'm Sally Wilson. I also happen to be a professor of biology here at Marshalltown Community College. And I am an artist as well. I have done arts and crafts my whole life, and there were many artists in my family. And so I was always exposed to lots of art. A number of years ago, at least a decade I would say, I started taking some art classes here at the college with Tim Castle, our art instructor, and began with some painting classes and took some sculpture classes. And some of the pieces in the show are actually pieces I made while I was taking classes. And many of the other ones I was using different techniques and strategies that Tim taught me in those classes, so I highly recommend them. I titled this show Art Colors Life because as you probably can tell from the pictures of the pieces, I really love color. And I feel that art is everywhere you look, and a lot of it has to do with how we look at things. And so I tend to look at something and somehow it suggests something about it that's different, a different reflection, a different perspective. One example would be, there's a piece in the show called Sea Debris, and it's a three-dimensional multimedia assemblage. And the way that got started was when I was cleaning up after the tornado in Marshalltown in July. I picked up a piece of metal. It was a metal ring. It was probably from some kind of a fire pit or barbecue of some kind. And I held it up and I looked through it, and when I looked through it, I could see a coral reef. It looked like a porthole on a ship to me. And then as I started picking up pieces of wood and tree branches and things out of the yard, I could actually see, oh, this looks kind of like a fish, and this looks like coral, and it just all began to come together in my vision, in my mind. And so what I've done with that piece, after finally, it was a lesson in adhesives, trying to get all those things to stick together and come together. But what I finally decided I wanted to do was use that as an opportunity for people to donate, make donations, and part of the donations will go towards an organization called the Algalita Marine Institute, which does research and education about plastics in our ocean, because many of the pieces in Sea Debris are plastics, debris that was about. The other part of the money I would like to go toward restoration after the tornado in Marshalltown, and so the other part of the money would go to our local Trees Forever group to replace the over 1,000 estimated trees that were destroyed or severely damaged in the tornado. So that was just a thing that evolved, and just from everyday things, and the more I looked at it, the more I could see it come to life, and I could see lots of the color just sort of comes up. Many years ago, I used to have a jewelry and accessory design business back when I lived in New York. And so I have some of those pieces in the show. I've continued to wear them and made some other ones along the way, inspired by those. I have a hat in the show that has a hat band with some flowers, artificial flowers on it, that I made when I first moved to Iowa 28 years ago. And in the winter, it was January, just like it is now. And I just needed something to lift my spirits, and so I made this hat band and stuck it on my hat, and it just brought so many great things into my life. I've met some wonderful people and made some wonderful connections, and so I put some of those things in. I have some sculptures, such as the sculpture here next to me, I did when I was in class with Tim, about a decade ago. And another one of the sculptures, the clay sculpture of a mermaid-like person rising from the waters. And my daughter's madly in love with that one, so I've gifted it to her. Yeah, so there's paintings as old as maybe a decade or so, and then I have some really new ones, very, very recent in the last, well, actually, to be honest, I was putting the finishing touches on the floor cloth and finishing a portrait of my friend's cats the day before and the day that the show opened. So some of it's really fresh. But I'm interested in I'm doing some portraits for people's pets. I have another friend that I'm doing one for. And so I'm interested in exploring that some more. And then I did a series of paintings of birches. I went to a really fun workshop. I was having trouble getting going, actually. And I saw that the Conservation Board was having a workshop on painting, a kind of a nature painting. And I thought, well, I'll go, it'll get me started. And it was very simple. Masking tape and bubble wrap into the paint over that, and then peel that masking tape off, and you have birch trees. And then take a plastic edge, like a credit card or something, in just little tiny bit of dark black or brown paint, and you have your marks on your birch tree. And I thought, well, gee, that was fun. That was really clever. I'm going to do some more of those. And so that was the autumn. And so I did a winter, a spring, and a summer, a whole series. And as I worked through the series, they became more and more involved with more detail. The same basic way, they all started out the same basic way, but really evolved into some nice, I don't know, more full, more rich paintings. And all 4 of those sold on the first day of the exhibit, so I was really thrilled, and some other people have asked me to make some. And they are really fun to paint, so. Yeah, so I'm always learning new things, and there's still new things that I want to try. I think art is therapeutic. I need to do art periodically because my right side of my brain has to get loosened up and let free. My left side is always dominating, and so in this left-brained world, so my right side needs to get out and express itself and help me to get the thoughts, all the thoughts that have kind of piled up and accumulated in there, and images out in some form. It's also very physical or very therapeutic because it's physical and you're touching stuff, and the aesthetic feeling of all these things is really valuable to me. But my ultimate goal is, like, the reason I teach and the reason I do most of the things I do is to try and save the planet. So most of my paintings have nature as an inspiration to try and help people see how beautiful the world is that we live in, and hopefully to make them appreciate it a little more and want to take some steps to take care of it and be kind to it. So those are my main. Occasionally I get a little frustrated with the world and I want to make a few statements about things too. So I do have a few that are maybe a little more opinionated pieces. But that's mostly why I make art. I hope that you can tell from the video that when you walk in the room, it's kind of color all over the place. I also grew up surrounded by art, so one of the other pieces in here is a very, very large piece. It's actually going to be a floor cloth. It's going to be basically a rug. I will polyurethane the surface of it multiple times, and then it will go on the floor in my dining room. The nice thing about having a show here is that it put a deadline that I had to honor, and it finally made me do some projects I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I've wanted to do this floor cloth for a really long time. And it was inspired by several different artists. The first one being my Aunt Polly. Aunt Polly was a sort of unrecognized, I would say more of a folk artist. The house I grew up in, there were paintings on the walls and paintings even in the bathroom and the kitchen, and there were paintings on the ceilings in some rooms and paintings on the stair risers on the stairs. And I was just kind of surrounded. And as a kid, I was allowed to paint with her on the walls. That was a great opportunity. I also really admire this artist from Nova Scotia, Maud Lewis, who was fairly well known. There was a great movie about her last year called Maudie. And she painted on the walls in her place too, and it reminded me of when I was young. And then my friend sent me a greeting card that had a painting on it. I thought, oh, that's kind of a simple design. I'm going to do this on this floor cloth. And then I started on this floor cloth, and it was, over, 110 inches long, and it was a big space to fill. And so I started filling in a little flower here and a little flower there. And then being a botanist and an ecologist by trade, I couldn't leave out details. So then I started getting more and more detailed. And so that piece took a lot longer than I had thought it was going to. But But in the end, I eventually contacted the important women in my life, my best friends and my nieces and my sister, and thinking back to my aunt, my mom, and my grandmother. And so in that, there are all flowers, and of course my 2 daughters, their favorite flowers are in that piece. And so it kind of evolved. It started as what I thought was going to be one thing, and then it came out similar to what I thought, but in a different way and in a lot more detail. And it was really a labor of love. But having this opportunity to put on this show just really lit a fire under me to do a bunch of things I had been meaning to do and hadn't done. Another fun project in this show was a piece that a friend admired at my house that my aunt had painted. It was a sort of a modern abstract painting, and she really liked it. And I said, well, I could do one like that in that same manner, in the colors that you'd like. And so one of the other faculty here, PJ Colbert, and I went to her garage and set up the easel and started making this painting for her house. And then the 2 of us started working on it together, and it's turned. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. A lot of people really, really liked it. And I thought it was going to be a very kind of simple, quick thing. And again, we got more engaged and more involved and played with color. It became a much more, I would say, rich outcome and a rich experience. So it's just been really fun. And I got a chance to put things in here from both old and new, and things that have meaning to me. And so a lot of the pieces have to do with trying to be kinder to the planet, trying to have a smaller impact on the planet. I have some recycled works. I actually recycle a lot of the canvases. I'll buy canvases at Goodwill that have manufactured paintings on them, and then I'll paint over them. There's a lot of found objects that are incorporated into some of the jewelry and accessories and into some of the sculpture and things like that. So, and in the seed debris assemblage. So my one regret is that the thing I like most to do, which is kind of paint with acrylics, it's a plastic, and I'm trying to think of some new ways. I do like to do watercolor, but they take more time. They're just not as quick to get done. But I would like to try and investigate now making my own pigments and paints from natural materials that are less harmful to the planet. One thing Tim Castle did teach me, all of the art students, was that when you were done with your palette, instead of scraping that off into the garbage or washing it down the drain, take that little bit of paint that's left and make something new with it. So there are several pieces in the show, and I made some little tiny canvases with my leftovers. I call them paint savers. And I'm giving those away to people who have come to see the show. And they can put their name in a drawing to get one of those. There are several of them that people can get. I just appreciate anybody taking time to visit, either from a distance or coming in to actually see the work. I'm really thrilled and really appreciative of the opportunity. And now I'm a little more motivated to do some more. So stay tuned.